Welcome back, everybody, to Hoot Loot. Today is the 5th of October, and boy, do we have a change of pace for you today. We're going to not only talk about, well, a little bit of the softness in the market, which we have been talking about, but precious metals are about to explode. And that's what we're going to focus on at the very end. We're going to show you some really attractive purchases that you can make and still make money in a down market. We are in a bear market. Make no mistake about it. I've ringed the bell, and that's all there is to it. John Williams will be with us hopefully next week. He was kind of busy, and he's, of course, is the publisher of Shadow Stats, and he's the one that will shed the most light on the government misinformation and misreporting. It is such a beautiful economy out there. Oh my God, I can't believe it. And yet people are poverty stricken. In any event, with that, I want to say, please like and subscribe. We're going to give you information you will never get anywhere else. We do our own research. We have our own fact checker, and a real one, not like that idiot Mark Zuckerberg, the worst CEO in history. And we really have a great one, and we're going to unveil some incredible facts like we have in the past. So with that, we'll be back in just a minute, and don't forget to like and subscribe because you will miss out if you do not hear this stuff, okay? It's not going to be reported in the LA Times or the New York Times. Forget about it. And if you want to watch cable TV, you can join the rest of the 60 million that are now mentally ill that have watched cable TV. And with that, we'll be right back. All right, well, today's show is going to be a very interesting show because last week we told you that the market was going to have a little bounce. We're going to help you get out of it. We're still going to help you get out of it. And we're going to show you some stocks at the very end of the show that look just superb. And it's all backed up by fundamental stuff that the Fed is completely screwing up. And we might as well take advantage of a dumb Fed. So let's start with Bitcoin, which is the canary in the coal mine and the password, and basically a zero. I still get people on Facebook and on social media. Do you know anything about Bitcoin? No, I don't. Do you run WhatsApp? What is this WhatsApp crap? You know, I would swear that Zuckerberg has paid a bunch of people to just, put phony pictures up on the dating site and to get them onto WhatsApp so he can get the most amount of money out of it because it's been a failure so far, okay? It does not make money, all right? Anyway, I'm going ahead of myself. So Bitcoin, 5 years, I want you to notice this, that it actually still is above where it was about 5 years ago. Not as much as it used to be, okay? And if it goes down to say 20,000, you've had dead money for 5 years if you bought it in that period of time and you hadn't traded it. If you traded it, you might have gotten hacked because Ethereum just got its blockchain hacked. Oh, it's so secure and decentralized. 320 million of Ethereum are missing. But we're going to get it back. Where are you going to get it back? You think you're going to print it? Jeez. All right. Tesla, another canary in the coal mine, had an earnings report which was, not surprisingly disappointing because the expectations were so high. I mean, you'd think this car is going to go to the moon by itself or Mars by itself, if you listen to good old Elon the Felon. But in any event, it's still holding up. It did break down quite a bit when it announced earnings. They have extremely aggressive growth ideas, and there are so many competitors. It is not going to have 100% market share, and nor do we have the capacity to produce the electricity to run all these cars in the first place. So we have problems that no one has thought of down the road. Well, maybe Elon will. He's such a genius after all. He can get us to the moon and back. He can get us to the Mars and back. He can do anything. He can con the SEC. He can, he is basically Teflon Elon. That's what they should call him, Teflon Elon, because nothing sticks. No matter how much he breaks the law, it sticks. And he's had about 5 lawsuits now in a very short period of time for unbridled racism. I don't know what that means, but he's being sued constantly, and people are leaving his firm constantly. All right, so Ark Innovation is Kathy Woods, who became an instant overnight celebrity for picking all of the cool stocks. And look at that. It went up straight as a rocket and came down straight as a rocket because these companies were nothing but hype. They had bad business models, DoorDash being one of them, taking hamburgers from point A to point B and charging an arm and a leg. I don't know in what universe that actually makes sense, but DoorDash is actually down about 75% in about 2 months. So, and all the buyers of ARK are underwater. So when they start telling you, oh yeah, I bought ARK, I bought that great ETF, and I'm just making a fortune. No, you're not. You're losing your shirt, you idiot. All right? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so mean. I'm just in one of those feisty moods today. All right, Renaissance EPO, IPO, that is, it's an ETF of very much like what ARK owns. These are theme stocks coming out, unicorns, and we've heard about unicorns this year. And the only unicorn I know of are stocks. I have yet to meet a woman unicorn, and even though they all claim to be. All the buyers here underwater. So sorry, guys, you didn't exactly go to the rich house. All right. The Dow Jones Industrials, and before I go on to this, I want to say something. Bitcoin is unbelievable as a lure for people who are lazy and want money just given to them. And that's our society. Welfare, politicians, buying people off, and that's what they do. That's why we want them out. That's why we want them to never return, because they will never do something in our interest. It's only in their interest, and they're serving us, not the other way around. Dow Jones is kind of holding up there, broke down a little bit. I still think it will break down, but it came back up a little bit, so we'll see. NASDAQ 100, and I have only 2 things to say to that, and that is, ding, ding! All right, we called it. We called the top on January 7th, and look at where it is now. A little bit of a bounce. We said that last week it would bounce, and it may still bounce more. I'm not going to say anything right now because, it went down awfully fast. It got awfully bearish, and I think that there will be a lot of buy the dippers. For example, Facebook, everybody wanted to buy it when it was down 100 points. I don't know why, but they did. So this may just happen. Now, this is the Ding Ding t-shirt. Now, I want, if you are one of us and you want the politicians gone and you want to ding them out of office, because ding ding not only means the top of the market, it means you're gone. Nancy Pelosi, you're gone. Joseph Biden, you're gone. All right? And I don't want you kids to do this in class. Please don't. It'll upset your teachers. Please don't do that. Please don't do this in class. Okay, so here we go. S&P 500. Guess what? I get to do another ding ding because it's now broken down too, and it had held up quite a bit. So what you see is large cap stocks breaking down. That's because that's where the money is, and if you need to recapitalize, you need to get money, you're going to sell the things that are way up there. Small caps look like they've broken down, not really viciously yet, but they're holding up pretty well, and they're right at support right now. Small caps would be a very bad sign if they started to really accelerate on the way down. Dow Jones Transportation has broken down a little bit, and this is a very important indicator because goods have to be transported somewhere, and so do people. And right now, it is very hard to transport goods somewhere, and sometimes people, because we have a port in Los Angeles that's sitting there with a ton of container ships with, just basically they're being pinochle inside or something. I don't know what the hell is going on out there. But why we have the inability to deliver goods in a promptly manner is really an amazing factor of the economy. It shows that we are restricting and that the economy is less free. A free economy is a prosperous economy. You can only be prosperous if you are allowed to make mutually beneficial transactions. Once those transactions are bound, you earn no GDP at all. GDP is simply just the sum total of all the transactions. It could be me buying a stick of gum, whatever. But the point is, the more impedance you put in front of it, the less growth you're going to have. And isn't it a coincidence that our growth has been going down over decades while we've regulated and regulated and regulated for your own good? Because these politicians, these professional crooks, politicians, they know better than you. They know better than me. They're smarter than me. I mean, one of them I know got fired from hot dog on a stick. She was so good. Jeez. I won't even mention her initials, AOC. All right, this is Bitcoin 5 years, and now we're starting to see a really long term. Now we're starting to see that this is really becomes much more descriptive as a long-term look. And Bitcoin has gone up, not 250%, 300% if you'd bought peak to peak. Now there are a lot of people that are up in Bitcoin, I admit. But what we're going to show you is that an awful lot of people that are buying in Bitcoin, derivatives, alternatives, and everything are so far underwater, and that they're very well advised to shut the hell up, because you're not going to make me money in Bitcoin, and I don't have WhatsApp. Okay, thank you. All right, so Ethereum also looks like a lot like Bitcoin, 5 years, a little bit up to about 250%. It is an affiliate, not an affiliate, but it does have a relationship with Bitcoin. It would be expected to move with Bitcoin. So you have only two companies that are showing some kind of strength, and they're coming down. I mean, look at Ethereum. It's already come down from 47.50 to 22.50 in like a couple weeks. So, I don't know. I still don't understand what these are used for other than illegal transactions and to disguise them. Because I've never used a Litecoin. I've never been asked to use a Litecoin. I've never been asked to use a Bitcoin. I've never been asked to use an Ethereum or required to use one for any transaction I've ever made. The only thing that I can think of is it's just for gambling. People gamble, basically they trade, rare wines. They're not going to drink them, so they have no value, but they just do that. And that's the only thing I can think of that's even close. All right. Grayscale Bitcoin Trust was started a little while before the ETFs were approved. And what you'll notice, this only owns Bitcoin. Okay, I want to make that clear. This is basically a Bitcoin ETF called a trust. Okay, it's just a legal determination, a legal difference, and that's it. Now, what you'll notice is that Grayscale did not exactly match Bitcoin's rise, and it is way down there. If you look at that red dotted line across the graph, look at that. So many people are underwater. Okay. Oh, I bought Grayscale. I'm a billionaire. No, you're not, you idiot. You're a line sack of you know what. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing about how much people make in Bitcoin when they haven't, unless they were lucky enough to buy it really early when they had no idea. No one gave a crap about Bitcoin long ago. No one did. So, they didn't buy it then. They weren't that foresightful. All they knew is a stock that they knew that I don't even want to call it a stock. It's not an organization. It's not an ORG. It's not a .org. It's not a .com. It's nothing. There is no organization there at all. No management, no nothing. Who runs this thing? Okay, that's what I'd like to know. How did it get to $1 trillion, and yet no one runs it? And no one claims to have created it. Just two fake people have been put up there to claim that they created it. But the funny thing is they'd be worth $60 billion by now. And that's pretty hard to hide when you have $60 billion. So, I would imagine anybody that had invented or created Bitcoin would be like, yeah, I am the smartest man in the room. but they couldn't be because I am. They were in the second smartest and the second best looking, because if I was a woman, I'd be all over me, just because of the fact I can figure things like this out and no one else can. Okay, so Coinbase is a broker dealer that came out basically to trade Bitcoin, and well, it's not exactly doing too well. It's gone all the way from 400 to about 180, something like that. That's a hell of a move for a company that hasn't been around a long time. And the same thing with Robinhood. I don't think I put it in here, but Robinhood's down like 99% at this point. And they're not getting new customers in. And Robinhood's customers are pretty much the bottom of the barrel because they trade in fractional shares and things like that. They can't even afford a full share of anything. So, you're getting really people you're getting the last money thrown in. That's got to tell you something. Litecoin, there's 5 years of that. That one's a biggie too. That one's the third largest or second largest, I think it's the third largest crypto, or fourth. And Litecoin, which I've never heard of anybody using that either. Litecoin has basically almost down to its very lows, and it made a double top, probably because the ETFs had to buy higher cap cryptos to put it in there. There's a thing called GDLC, which has high market cap cryptos, but there aren't many. Bitcoin has like almost everything. Ethereum's pretty close, and then you have Litecoin with a couple percent, Bitcoin Cash a couple percent, and Ripple a couple percent. So, and here's MicroStrategy, one of my favorite companies to bash. Okay, here's a company that is a Bitcoin holding company. Also, it is an ETF, I think, or it thinks of itself as one, and it has continually bought Bitcoin and borrowed money to do it. Do you really think that borrowing money for a volatile asset is a good idea? I don't. I've done that, and I've had my ass handed to me, okay? But I was a lot younger. I wasn't a CEO, but I've done it on a much smaller scale. But what I'm saying to you here, look at all the buyers that have lost money in this thing. This is not a success. And Michael Saylor says, I'll never sell my Bitcoin. I love my Bitcoin. I sleep with my Bitcoin. Well, he didn't really say that, but he might as well have. He seems to have some obsession with it, and he's going to sell it. Trust me, he is going to sell it because the company has no other real good, solid business. That's all there is to it. And Bitcoin's not going to go to the levels he thinks. Sorry, Michael, you got that wrong. Had you spent the same amount of money acquiring a company, you would have done due diligence, you would have talked to the management, you would have gone to the headquarters, you would have had negotiations. Instead, you just bought this sight unseen. Okay, how did you even know that it existed? How did you know you're not going to get hacked? Okay, how did you know that? Overstock.com also sort of related to the cryptos, and this thing is just it's like big lots. It accepts Bitcoin, but it doesn't. Nobody pays in Bitcoin. The reason nobody pays in Bitcoin is because it's so infinitely valuable. $100,000 a coin, $1 million a coin, $1 zillion a coin. No, not according to this. People are losing money in this thing. So it does tend to trade with Bitcoin. And look at that, a brand new 2-year low. All these people are underwater. All these crypto geniuses are underwater. And they thought, oh, it's the future, the blockchain, oh, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Well, the blockchain didn't do Ethereum any good. Let me tell you that right now. $320 million. Not a day goes by where some illegal transaction occurs involving the blockchain or Bitcoin or something. And why they just ignore it, I have no idea. If I bought, let's say I bought IBM and they had a scandal of the week every day, something was wrong, would I want to own it? Would you want to own it? I don't think so. All right, here's Riot Blockchain, my favorite. These people ought to be committing a riot. Now today there was a freeze in the lower south, I think Texas, and the grids had to be shut down because of the miners using too much electricity. Now, if that's the case, how are EVs gonna fill up? Think about it. Think about it. If they had to shut down because there was too much pressure on the power grid, how are you going to fill up an EV? You're going to sit there for like 3 days, okay? And that is a flaw. And that is why EVs are not the future that everybody thinks, all right? Ripple 5 years, this one was also supposed to be the Great White Hope, or the Great something Hope, and it's just way down, peak to peak, got killed. You know, this is not a bull market pattern. This is not the future. This is a sucker's pattern. A sucker's pattern, okay? Please don't be a sucker. Please don't let yourself get scammed by some Nigerian that pretends to make you $8,000 a day with absolutely no loss. I have seen that. I see that 3 times a day on Facebook, Instagram, you name it. I took my WhatsApp off, or I would have gotten it on that too. It's unreal. It is just out in the open. There is prostitution out in the open. There's drug selling out in the open. And there's this scam out in the open. And there is not one bit of law enforcement that even tries 1 cent to stop it. Is that a metaverse, Mark Zuckerberg, by the way, where people steal from each other and they commit scams? Maybe that's it. Maybe I didn't understand it right. All right, now the CRB commodity index, you know, we've been talking about inflation and inflation and inflation and inflation, and it ain't going to be a good decade. We had a show a couple weeks ago. If you think 2021 was bad, 2022 ain't going to be such a good deal either. And as a matter of fact, we haven't seen nothing yet because stocks are so overvalued. And I'm going to tell you in a minute how stuck the Fed is. And the Fed can't do a damn thing. And the only thing that can benefit from all of these things together, gold and silver mining. And I'm going to show you those at the very end, and some really attractive ones, okay? Corn used as a sweetener, used as ethanol, methanol, all kinds of things. You know, some people have corns on their toes. You know, they're all over the place. So, you know, corn is starting to move up, as are a lot of the, you know, the agricultural commodities, part of which happens to do with the fact that it's being taken offline. You know, a lot of farmland's being taken offline for other uses like solar panels. Solar panels, which is another way to pollute the environment because the battery the battery creates so much pollution. And then what do you do with it? It's not biodegradable. That thing will be here when the next generation of Martians shows up here. Like, what the hell is this? People actually use this thing? That's what they're going to say. You know, if they spoke English, I'm sure they do. All right. Now, livestock also up. Crude oil also up. This thing is going to $100, it appears. OPEC has lost control. They cannot pump more oil, is what I've read. We do not have a shale oil industry that is going to save us this time. And we have inflation, and that's going to push it up no matter what, because the cost of drilling oil has gone up with inflation, with the cost of drilling oil. Oil is a component into oil. You have to transport it, you use the energy to drill with it, you have to refine it, and then you have to send it to the gas station. So by the time you pump a barrel of oil, I don't know if you have half left. Okay, I really don't know if you have half left. Gasoline, even though people are not driving miles, and I've read this just this week, the mileage driven is down. Why is gasoline up? Gee, what was that word I was thinking of again? Let me think. Inflation, that's it, inflation. Gosh, you know, being 63, you know, you get these senior moments, you can't remember what words are, but inflation is doing it. And, you know, it blows my mind that there is such a demand for cars, and yet gasoline is going through the roof, and it will continue to do so. Natural gas, here's an interesting ploy too. Natural gas is blown up, blown down. It is controlled largely by Russia, and we have a very tense situation between Russia, Ukraine, Biden, of course, and you know, and basically Europe. Europe depends on Russian natural gas, and Russia doesn't have an obligation to supply it to them. So it might just be a cold and unpleasant winter. That's all I've got to say. But here we go again. Energy is in shorter supply than it used to be not so long ago. 3-month T-bills. I don't know how to explain this. I mean, these things just keep going up and up and up and up and up. Meanwhile, we hear Jay Powell, who is a pathological liar, I think I would say. He is telling us that, you know, we might raise rates, maybe next meeting, maybe in the meeting thereafter. If you do that, and I don't know if he will or he won't, this says he should, but we have so much national debt, $30 trillion of national debt crossed this week. And that's up from 10 billion 10 years ago. It is going exponential. There's no way to stop it. And the only thing you can do is keep interest rates low so that debt service doesn't cost a lot of money. But there's a problem with that. There's a huge problem with that. It's called inflation. And inflation is a horrible thing. Inflation and hyperinflation led to World War II. They don't lead to good outcomes. Trust me on that. 5-year Treasury yields are starting to go up too. They're still pretty low, but they're going up. Everything's moving. 10 years also spiking up. The 30 years kind of spiked up a little bit, but again, the yield curve is flattening. And I've said this before. A flattening yield curve looks like this, where the short end, the 3-month bills and the 30-year bills are almost equivalent or have a very small differential. A flat yield curve means banks cannot lend at a profit. Okay, that's number one. Okay, and number two, it means that there's a tightening on the short side, and the lower long-term rates are telling you that this is going to hurt economic growth. Long-term rates tend to reflect economic growth, and I don't see any, not at 2%. Bank of England just raised rates yesterday, I believe, by 25 basis points, and that is the beginning. It has to happen. I don't know how long the U.S. is going to, do its thing, but I'm telling you this right now. Countries are starting to raise rates. Many of them. Russia raised its to 8.5. They don't want to have an inflation problem. They're smart. They're smarter than us when it comes to economics, and they're commies. What do you think about that? They're commies, and they know more about economics. Unreal. Treasury inflation securities. Now, this is curious. Okay, inflation protected securities. Now, I want to show you something here. Right here, it really started to go down, and we called it a rounded top. I didn't think so. I would have said we're going to see inflation. It may not continue to go through this. It may bounce. I think it will, because the fundamental background is just pushing it. But on the other hand, you can't ignore a graph because they tell you money movement. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. And I'm going to say this is the one thing that makes me go, man. I don't do that very often, by the way, but let me do that for you again. Okay. Yeah. People love that. I don't know why. All right. Let's keep going here. Let's keep going here. I have to undo this. I'm a little retarded with this pen. Okay, Apple had a great earnings report. It has not broken down. It's in a bear flag. It kept the NASDAQ from crashing. The NASDAQ had amazing earnings. From the worst to the best, Apple had terrific earnings. Absolutely terrific earnings. And I still think it's too high. I still think it's going to go down, but it held up very, very well. Okay, and that's why you don't see the NASDAQ even lower. Amazon, it went down 300 points the day before earnings were announced. And it went 200 points up the day the earnings were announced. Now, this is one of the things markets do, and I want to talk to you about. Markets anticipate what's going to happen, but sometimes people lean the wrong way. And they were leaning bearish when the earnings report came out, and they were all short, and people started to buy it because it was, getting down there, and it wasn't that bad of an earnings report and all that. And all of a sudden, these people are caught. with their pants down and they get massacred. It is always prudent if a stock rallies into an earnings report, prudent to think that it might go down. It is prudent to think that if it goes down, it might bounce back up. It seems to do that more than 50% of the time. I would never bet on it in a million years because it's not, it is so random. Oh gosh, meta platforms. What the hell does meta platforms mean anyway? That's what I want to know. But you know, I'm not even going to go into Mark Zuckerberg because I'm so sick of talking about him. The worst human being on earth, the worst humanitarian, belongs in The Hague. He's pals with Fauci, believe it or not. I saw him and Fauci are thick as thieves, the two most evil people I can think of, as a matter of fact. But if you look at meta platforms, last week I said bear flag, and look what happened. It plunged 100 points on lousy earnings. They are now saturated. There are no new users of Facebook, and they're getting their lunch eaten by Google, who is the other duopolist in in advertising. Facebook has some. Facebook is reliant upon it almost completely, 95%, 95%. And the thing about it, the thing I don't like about this, why did they take a brand name that must have cost them so much to build the brand and then suddenly just shelve it, suddenly just get rid of it? There are people who think that metaverse is the future. I think metaverse is going in reverse, and it sure is for Mark Zuckerberg, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Oh, and here's the other one, Google. Now I want to talk about this for a minute. Google owns YouTube. We get censored all the time, and this country is turning into a country with no rights, no freedom of speech. You can't say anything that upsets the liberal point of view. And even the Google employees, when they were surveyed, said that it was a liberal company. There have been lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit for people being fired for having the wrong political view. Unbelievable. And this thing is a behemoth, and YouTube is a behemoth. But they will yank you off the air for no reason. They will decline advertising for no reason, basically because they're a monopolist. And, they also have 98% of the search engine business. Oh boy. And you can sure as hell mess with search and what comes up first and what doesn't. They have some kind of algorithm. I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you this. Liberal first, conservative, way down on page number 20. Microsoft looks like it's in a rounded top. This thing has gone up like crazy. It's due for a huge move down. I do believe it will happen. I don't know when, but it had a good earnings report. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm still calling it neutral because I do think that this is in a rounded top. And I do think everything's going to go down at once. Netflix, here's the poster child of crummy earnings, down 125, in overnight. Content costs a lot to buy. And guess what, Netflix? We give great content. We give the best content. Can you imagine if Duck Hunters can get a show? Why don't we get a show on Netflix? You got the money. Well, as much as you used to, but you still have the money. And if you don't take us, Hulu will, or someone else will, because this show is the best ever. There's no show like this. You'll never see a show like this and this accurate. All right, Nvidia is the poster child for chips which are in short supply. Now, if they're in such short supply, why is every chip maker going down? Shouldn't they be raising prices and getting higher margins? Well, they're not. Ford blamed the fact that it didn't have a good quarter on lack of chips. Okay, I'm really somewhat baffled by this. The bank index kind of continues to just sort of, creep higher. It really looks like it's running out of steam. It almost broke down. And, I would think that if the bank index breaks down, we pretty much have everything in sync. The broker-dealer index also broke temporarily, came back up. This makes me wonder whether SpaceX is really going to happen. $94 billion for a ship that gets blown off a platform. And I just don't know. And NASA, what happened to the 60 years of technology they had? Okay, what happened to it? They lost it? The dog ate it? The dog ate their homework? It's unbelievable. The NASA does not have any information or technology regarding its supposed moon landing. Believe it or not, you lose that kind of stuff? Come on. Who believes that? Anybody that watches cable news. That's who. Goldman Sachs. Now, this I got to talk about a little bit. I have shown you so many examples of companies being creamed 80%, 90% from the IPO. I showed them a few last week, and I'll continue to show some. Goldman Sachs, all of the CEOs of the investment banks doubled their salaries. Okay, now let me understand something. I screw up really badly. I cost my clients money and I double my salary. Makes perfect sense to me. And here we go. Because we don't like Goldman Sachs also, by the way, is called government Sachs, because whatever happens to when a Goldman Sachs CEO resigns, they then end up in the Treasury Department or vice versa. Talk about Hank Paulson, a bunch of others. It is just, they're joined at the hip. So what we have to do, there's only one solution to this, and that is vote out all the incumbents, make America laugh again, and we are presenting these unbelievably nice t-shirts for you to tell everybody that you don't approve of the way this country is being run and the stripping of your freedoms. JP Morgan, big bank, it had a pretty crummy earnings report, and it looks like it may be rolling over. That's why the bank index is not as vibrant as it used to be. American Express is a credit card company. It looks like a rounded top. It still may be, but it had one more little rally, and it had a good earnings report. So we may have to wait a little longer for that. Mastercard had a terrific move. I don't understand. Between Visa, Mastercard, and American Express, there were 3 huge jumps in each of those stocks. That would tend to have you believe that that the economy is just ripping along. Well, I have 2 eyes, and I can see it's not. I think my gut feel is that these have gone up because people have too much debt. And they can't, they've taken on debt and taken on debt and taken on debt. Just like the United States, $30 trillion. They've taken on debt and taken up debt. You pay it off tomorrow, I'll take it today, type of thing. All right, there's Visa. Visa also broke out of a declining trend line, and it looked really good too. So Costco, now here we go to the retailers, and this is where it doesn't entirely make sense. The retailers like Costco have basically just plunged. They started to, they got a big burst from the stimulus checks, which I never get. There's 3 of them, and I've yet to get one. And gee, I wonder if I'm on some list. Do not give him a stimulus check. 3 times you couldn't do it? You have my social security number, you idiots. All right. Target also has done very well until recently, and they have said publicly that their results are now being squished by inflation and not being able to pass it on completely. And that's why you're seeing Target start to come down, even though it was a juggernaut the earlier part of the year. Home Depot also, it was a juggernaut. It was just booming, and all of a sudden it broke down too. So you've got to look at now, retail is 70% of the economy. And when retail doesn't do so good, I'd start to be concerned. And Walmart was the one last week that held out. No, not so much anymore. Walmart looks like it's breaking down, and it's a huge company, a Dow component, And if Walmart breaks down, we have a real problem in retail. That's all there is to it. People are not buying, they're not going to buy, and inflation is going to dissuade them from buying even more. Fedex is the transporter of all these goods that you buy everywhere, and it's not looking so good either. It looks like it's forming a huge head and shoulders rounded top, and as soon as it breaks that line at 230, if it does, it's on its way down. Okay. A better one is UPS, and this one I don't understand. This is kind of like Facebook getting killed and Google, zooming. But UPS has eaten FedEx's lunch, and you can see right here. I'm gonna try my pen again and see if I can do this properly. You've got this, and I'm not sure exactly what it was, the volumes that went up, or are they getting higher margins because it is so constrained and bottlenecked? Not entirely sure, but we'll see. I can't move it. Oh, hold on. Sorry about that. Had a little technical glitch. All right, now let's go to gold. Now we're going to talk about what you should be excited about, because I am. Gold's time is now. It's been forever since gold has moved and silver has moved. But now it looks very much to me like it's the time to go. And first of all, I'm going to show you a graph of gold, 5 years, perfect triangle. And with inflation coming up and money being printed, the odds of gold breaking higher are extremely high. Now, I'm not saying it's 100%, it's never 100%, but I can tell you this, if it breaks down below this red line right here, then where's my red line? Oh, here it is. If it breaks down like right down here, okay? Okay, so you take a 5% loss, that's it. But if it goes this way, it's gonna go way the hell up, because it's gonna do exactly what it did here. That is what you'd expect. You'd expect a doubling, at least. So, it's had a long time to consolidate, get people not interested in it. They're all frothing at the mouth about Bitcoin. Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. And it's going to be the boring turtle that's going to beat the hare. I guarantee it. All right? There we go. And silver too, making a perfect cup and handle. And this is a very bullish pattern for silver. Silver has industrial uses, gold has fewer. It's more jewelry. Half of gold is held by Indians, as jewelry, because that's given as a dowry, for marriage. And silver, on the other hand, has industrial uses like those batteries that are going to all pollute our ground and some other things. And they also have use in electronics and other things. So this one looks really good. It has had a long-term consolidation. A rounded bottom is a great pattern. And then when you put a cup and handle on the end of it and it consolidates some more, it's ready to go. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but pretty soon. Gold and silver miners. Now, this is how you want to go if you want to invest in this particular sector. Gold and silver miners. They're all kinds of different ones, and some have mines in different countries. But this is an aggregate ETF of all of them, and that pattern looks really good to me. I mean, again, I would say that if gold, if this pattern breaks down to like here, you get out. You get out a small loss. But you know what? It might just might do this. And I think it will. And gold and silver miners tend to move faster than gold. They're more leveraged to gold as are silver miners. All right. Okay, so that's the same one. Yamana Gold. This is a small gold company, traded as high as 27 once upon a time. and it has a beautiful pattern right there. It is going to break out, I think. And again, you got to understand that the time to get in is when your stop loss is your stop loss is right here. You know, you get out here, so you take a small loss. But if it breaks up here, it's going to go way the hell up. So, you know, your risk return ratio is really favorable. And that's why I'm saying it's time to look. It's time to get ready. These will make more back, if I'm right, than you will have lost in your stupid tech stocks. Okay, and that's what I meant by walking you out and walking you in. There's no reason you can't be happy and making money. Just because the economy sucks, well, go with it. You know, ride the wave. This is how you ride the wave when the economy sucks. Okay? You buy gold and silver. That's all there is to it. This is called Wheaton Precious Metals. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful company that has a lot of gold, a lot of silver, and it's in a perfect pattern to break out. And I would say, once again, you know, if it drops below that line, that red line, okay, you're out. You're out with a small loss. But if it goes up, and it goes up like it did here, okay, you know, if it goes up like it did here, you're going to have a hell of a gain. I mean, imagine if it started to go up like that. You know, you're going to have a hell of a gain. So that's why you want to look at really good patterns and really good companies. They don't have a lot of downside, and you can limit your downside with a stop limit that's only a couple points below. Because if it doesn't hold that pattern, you know, all bets are off. That's it. Simple as that. So this is Wheaton Precious Metals is one of the companies you really want to look at instead of those stupid cryptos. Those cryptos are going to bankrupt so many people. These will not. These have real assets, they have real earnings, and they are something to look at. They're not quite broken out, but my anticipation is they will. And I want to, you know, I will let you know that it's the right time, but I think it's pretty close. I don't think you can get hurt in these things, not with inflation coming up and Bitcoin coming down. So that's part of it. That's part of the plan to get you out and preserve your wealth, okay? And with that, I would love to say thank you very much for tuning in, and I'd appreciate any likes and subscribes. This is still costs you absolutely nothing for the best, most accurate information you're ever going to find. Be informed, be amused, but never be misled. Ever be misled. Ever be misled, except a couple times. I'm just kidding. Anyway, we'll see you next time. And thank you very much for tuning in. Like and subscribe. We love you. We want to see you right back.